Making choices to serve mankind and making choices to do something hard, really is great growth for him, and I'm proud of him for doing it. And I'm glad he's
Garrison and Gabriel. I reached out to them just before Christmas, and I reached out to them after.
Gwen are both going to move in with Garrison. There is something about living with somebody who cares if you come home at night or don't come home. Not necessarily parenting you, but just cares about what's going on with you.
That, I'm laughing now because it's ridiculous.
You won't believe the tea we're spilling today. From secret breakups to shocking lies, this is Unreal Tea. Hit subscribe before the drama starts. Welcome everyone. The night air cooled, quiet, broken only by the faraway humming of passing cars and periodic yelping of a distant dog. Flagstaff streets, usually peaceful, suddenly throbbed with red and blue lights flashing. Police vehicles lined the driveway of Garrison Brown's residence, sirens muted but lights spinning in staccato syncopation. Neighbors stepped from behind closed curtains, fear and curiosity palpable. The house that once echoed with laughter now stood still, a bitter reminder of tragedy that had occurred between its walls. Officers crept slowly, boots crunching on gravel, flashlights cutting through darkness. Every hallway, every corner was scoured, cameras filming every move. And then they found him. Garrison Brown, Janelle and Kody's beloved son, still. The air was thick with the lingering smell of warmth of human presence, now overshadowed with the cold of finality. His favorite blanket nodded at his side, it was proof of the life he had struggled to grasp onto. Cheyenne, the roommate who had been made aware of the pop some time prior to that night, sat locked up on the couch. Her pale face, her trembling hands. She repeated that faint sound over and over in her mind, the echo growing louder by the second. "I heard something, but I didn't think anything of it," she murmured to herself, sobbing openly. The guilt, raw and unbearable, hung around in her chest like a weight. It was a sound that would haunt her for all eternity, a noise so small, but bound to a moment so sorrowful that it would haunt her for the rest of her days. News of Garrison's death was relayed practically in real time via social media. Fans from around the world vented their outrage and grief. Candlelight vigils broke out spontaneously, from small neighborhood parks to church steps. People walked around with photos of Garrison, candles in hand, faces having disbelief, loss, and love etched in them. The hashtags #RememberGarrison and #JusticeForGarrison were trending across the world, as people tried to make sense of a life brutally curtailed. In the Brown family, every member's expression of loss was different. Janelle clung to family photos, tears dripping off her sleeves, eyes hollow with loss. Christine wandered around the home, quietly and in despair, recalling all that she remembered of her son. Mary remained motionless, said nothing, weeping at the futility of life and the moments we get to take for granted. And Kody, guarded, steadfast, but shattered inside. The world watched as a family already strained through decades of conflict found itself at its blackest moment yet. The story of that night, the gentle pop, the warnings dismissed, the weepings unheard, had become allegorical. It was a chilly reminder that even the faintest signs can be the heaviest. Cheyenne's remembered memory, the resonance echo of the sound, was a lesson in watchfulness, empathy, and the unnoticed battles so many wage behind doors. Fans and community members talked about Garrison's sweetness, his sense of humor, his smile, the light he shed on those around him. Social media was flooded with memories, photos of him laughing with friends, videos of sister wives, and stories of acts of kindness that went unreported. Each post, each vigil, and homage, a public mourning for a life cut far too short. As the evening fell on Flagstaff, candles burned steadily in the face of cold wind, their soft glow casting tears on the faces of those who had gathered to mourn. There was silence between prayers softly said, silence that was both comforting and heart-wrenching. It was in that silence that Garrison's memory was king, the muffled pop that no one heard, the bedchamber where he had slept, and the laughter that would never echo again through those halls. This night was not just a senseless tragedy, but a turning point. For Cheyenne, for the Brown family, and for everyone who loved them, it was a brutal reminder: life is short, and even the slightest sound, the quietest of seconds, can be filled with meaning we cannot understand. The days that followed the death of Garrison Brown were spent in a muted grief that no lens could ever capture. In the Brown family home, laughter was now stifled. Janelle sat on the edge of her bed, clutching old family albums, each picture a sour reminder of moments now irretrievably distant. Her tears fell freely, unchecked, as she imagined the childhood of Garrison and all the things which played in her mind like a recording, the way he dashed down the halls laughing, the jokes he said just for her, the small gestures of love that only a mother could fully grasp. Christine paced the rooms, fingers brushing furniture and walls as if to anticipate feeling his presence still lingering on them. She stood in each step, echoing the void. She recalled how he'd confided in her, brief moments of vulnerability. She wished she'd managed to get into on a deeper level now. The silence of the house, previously comforting, now lay heavy on her chest, a physical weight that made her think of what was lost forever. Mary, usually calm, sat for hours in introspection. At a window, gazing out at the night sky above, filled with stars. Her thoughts were not only with Garrison, but with how temporary life is and the unseen battles people fight. She prayed alone, softly beseeching God for understanding, forgiveness, and a measure of peace for her family. Kody, remote but deeply bruised, retreated into himself, replaying family scenes and conversations, wondering if he had missed cues along the way. He was confronted with an unpalatable fact, that even within families bound by love, there are some places where misunderstanding reigns supreme, and young souls must fend for themselves in the struggle. His reserve was not indifference, it was grief distilled through a stretch of years of defective relationships, regret, and undeclared emotions. Outside the Brown residence, the public reacted in waves of collective sorrow. Fans spontaneously gathered in parks, parking lots, and small community centers, lighting candles that fluttered across the blackness. Each candle seemed to utter a wordless message: "We remember you, Garrison." Social media was ablaze with tributes, with hashtags like #RememberGarrison and #SisterWivesForever trending on every platform. Moments of his smiles, shots from the reality show, and personal anecdotes narrated by fans created a tapestry of memory across continents. They penned about the warmth he radiated, the smiles he drew, and the light he brought to ordinary days. Even strangers were moved by his loss, drawn by a story that reminded them of life's frailty and importance of noticing the unspoken struggles of those directly around them. Every candle, every posting, every whispered prayer became part of the circle's active memory, an acknowledgement of loss, but a testament to life. Cheyenne, who had burdened herself, recalled the tiny sound she had discounted when he died. The pop she had not even thought was important now was so unacceptable. She replayed the sound in her mind all the time, pondering what might be different. Guilt became a shadow that haunted her with each quiet moment, each flash of memory, each ring of laughter she'd never hear. As the sun set over Flagstaff, casting long shadows across empty streets, the city itself mourned. The stillness of homes, the gentle glow of candlelight in windows, and the murmurs of people standing outside created a scene of bereavement that was both public and intimate. It was a reminder to all of us watching, listening, and mourning. Life is fragile, precious, and short, and sometimes the quietest moments are the most powerfully significant. This time became not just a story about loss, but a lesson in empathy, awareness, and attention. For the Brown family, it was a very personal accounting. To the fans, it was a reminder to look at their own life, their relationships, and others in their lives. And for Cheyenne, it was a reminder she would never forget that the quietest whisper, dismissed, misunderstood, ignored, will echo across eternity in ways none of us can ever conceive. When word of Garrison Brown's passing hit the net, the online communities went crazy. Social media feeds overflowed with outrage, shock, and grief. Fans took to Twitter with screenshots, clips, and messages of condolence, everyone a testament to the life of the young man they had come to know vicariously. The hashtags #RememberGarrison, #SisterWivesTragedy, and #GarrisonBrownForever became trending on social media. Strangers in internet comment threads discussed their own relationship to Garrison, how his humor, charm, or acts of kindness had touched them, even from the vantage of reality TV. Media channels reported the news immediately, not only reporting the tragic facts, but also highlighting the chilling revelation by Cheyenne, Garrison's roommate. Reporters summarized her evidence of the faint noise she had registered at the time he died, a noise dismissed then but now echoing with ghastly connotations. Tabloids speculated whether it was preventable, making the public wonder. Commentators broke down the Brown family, theorizing that decades of discord within the Brown family may have bred a deeper, unseen battle. The story became larger than a news item. It was a countrywide debate about mental illness, suffering silently, and the silent battles that individuals wage. In the process, candlelight vigils were organized in villages and towns across the country. Fans arrived in hundreds, some with photographs of Garrison, others with candles, flowers, and scraps of paper with scribbling. The stairs outside the Flagstaff Community Center were overwhelmed with a sea of glowing light. Wind began to blow in the evening, carrying whispers of loss, prayer, and gentle song. People alternated telling out loud, recounting moments of sister wives, personal interactions, and the light Garrison had shed on their lives. At each vigil, there was a quiet but an intense one. He had been counted, and he would not be forgotten. Journalists who were covering the vigils described the scene in a mixture of awe and grief. Parents brought their children, softly explaining the importance of compassion, remembrance, and hearing someone who may be hurting. In silence. Friends and distant fans both welcomed one another, comforted by the common loss. Candles glowed in tandem with tears and whispered stories, a scene both celestial and terrestrial, a tribute that even in death, Garrison's existence impacted lives miles away from his own family. Cheyenne, carrying her own burden, strolled to one of the first vigils in the middle of the night. She noticed the dance of flames reflected in tear-stained eyes, both of relief and infinite guilt. In her memory was the recollection of that small pop, the sound that had been so insignificant once, yet in the vigils there was a macabre solace. With the communal bereavement of hundreds, she found understanding, sympathy, and pardon she could not yet muster for herself. Fan art on social media sites went viral. Clips stitched together fragments of Garrison's life, laughing on the set, joking around with family members, working quietly behind the scenes. These montages were shared tens of thousands of times, with every like, comment, and share adding to the communal memory of a life cut much too short. There were debates not only regarding his death, but regarding the bigger things: mental health awareness, the pressures of living as a celebrity, and listening to subtle screams for help before it is too late. Television networks, reality television news programs, and even national newspapers dissected the tragedy, cutting it up from police reports to friend, fan, and family member interviews. Certain segments highlighted the family's communication dynamics, while others highlighted Garrison's inner struggle that was otherwise absent from public visibility. The story was tight, usually heartbreaking, and impossible to deny. The days turned into weeks, yet memorials in public places persisted, proving to be a living symbol of the legacy left behind by Garrison. Candles burned consistently in parks, windows, and homes. Fans who had never met him in life felt a sense of emotional attachment, linked by grief and reflection. All accounts told, all candles lit, imposed a harsh but real lesson: life is precarious, and even the most marginal signal, if ignored, can have life-changing consequences. On TV, on social media, and at vigils, Garrison Brown's story became one of personal tragedy but public outcry of warning, sympathy, and comprehension. The soft pop his roommate did hear that night, a sound once dismissed, became an overwhelming metaphor. It reminded families, friends, and strangers alike that paying attention, listening closely, and being compassionate can be the difference. In the days and weeks after Garrison Brown's passing, the conversation shifted. What began as shock and grieving had splintered into a more general conversation about mental health, awareness, and empathy. Experts provided their insight into the necessity of picking up on quiet warning signs, citing that often the most subtle signals, like the little pop Cheyenne heard, are indicative of profound distress. Therapists and counselors reminded all that mental illness is often masked, hidden behind laughter, charm, or social media grins. American fans from all over the country emerged with their own stories, inspired by Garrison's experience, to speak freely about their own experiences. All but one confessed they had ever dismissed warning signals in friends or loved ones, the same way Cheyenne had instinctively dismissed that small, fateful noise. On Facebook messages, video tributes, and heartfelt comments, they encouraged each other to listen, to call in, and be kinder. Garrison's saga became a springboard for dialogue, recovery, and learning, converting catastrophe into a lesson for millions. On one of the internet fan boards, over a dozen entries were placed, each one personal sadness but also hope. Garrison's story makes me call up my friends, one said. We can't wait for a big cry for help. It's sometimes the quiet ones that are most vital. Another member wrote, I never knew how much the little things really mattered. This is awful, but it is opening my eyes. These feelings were echoed in groups at home, where mental health centers and groups were established in the wake of the disaster. Schools, youth centers, and social clubs provided sessions in empathy, emotional intelligence, and active listening. Parents learned to talk openly with children about feelings, and friends were encouraged to stick together even when signs appeared dim or indistinct. Garrison's story, tragic as it was soon one of private agony and public interest. Even in the Brown home, mending was slow but genuine. Janelle spoke to fans in a personal interview, sharing memories of Garrison's chuckles, kindness, and enthusiasm he brought to everyday life. She urged others to visit loved ones, to listen for the whispers, and to seek help before too late. Christine shared her message again, emphasizing that loss is a common human experience, and talking about mental health is important in the prevention. Mary and Kody, too, silently contributed to local outreach through behind-the-scenes support, raising money for mental health care and encouraging others to be vigilant, compassionate, and engaged. Final memorials were brief but powerful. Friends, fans, and loved ones gathered, sharing stories, lighting candles, and leaving flowers in remembrance. Soft music floated through the air, accompanied by tears, whispers, and the occasional laugh. As stories of memory were told, one would speak of Garrison's humor, another of his humble kindness. Each memory woven added texture to the collective knowledge of what he was, a young man full of so much life, but with struggles unknown. Cheyenne reflected on the tragedy and spoke of her ongoing journey toward forgiveness and understanding. While guilt still remained, it was channeled into activism, talking candidly about how one must be aware of slight warning signs and address mental illness seriously. Her message resonated with many, turning a personal tragedy into an epic tale of watchfulness, empathy, and hope. As the sun set over Flagstaff for the final time in these memorials, the fans, community, and family as a whole recognized that even though Garrison's life had been abruptly shortened, his story had created waves of awareness, action, and compassion. It reminded all of us that even the smallest of moments, a faint sound, a silent movement, or an unseen sign, can be full of deep significance. Listening, caring, and being there for one another might be the difference between life and death. Garrison Brown's tale is tragic, sure, but it is also a reminder, a lesson, and a wake-up call. His life, short as it was, left a legacy of compassion, understanding, and introspection. And to those who remember him, it is a plea: listen closely, answer with compassion, and never forget the strength in small, seemingly inconsequential moments. As the weeks turned into months, Garrison Brown's story became more than a news headline. It was a warning, a reminder of the gossamer fragility of life, and a testament to the unspoken weights people carry. The muffled noise that his roommate Cheyenne had trivialized, the pop that at the time had seemed insignificant, was now remembered by thousands as the final whisper of a life that had been full of promise, laughter, and warmth. In quiet moments, fans relived Garrison's memories, his gentle smile, his biting sarcasm, his kindness to others, and the hints on sister wives of a young man both deeply loved and quietly tortured. Each snapshot, clip, and anecdote served as a reminder that appearances are deceiving, and that the ugliest wars are waged in silence. The Brown family still mourned in private, but they also directed their grief into action. They all discussed freely the necessity of mental health, the necessity for heeding the tiny indications, and the significance of being there for those they loved. Janelle, Christine, Mary, and Kody all found their own means to pay tribute to Garrison, whether through philanthropy, awareness initiatives, or quiet reflection. Their common loss became their message to humanity: even if we cannot be in control of all that occurs, we can all strive to be aware, to be empathetic, and to be present. Cheyenne's journey of forgiveness and understanding became part of the larger story. She shared her story publicly, urging others to become attuned to tiny, seemingly insignificant cues of sorrow in others. Her sad but determined tone reminded onlookers that tragedy can instill change, and that however delayed, consciousness can avoid further deaths. Supporters from all corners of the world continued to convene in candlelight vigils, writing tribute messages, and talking about mental health, empathy, and life's transience. Social media, previously a tool for purposes of mere entertainment, had become a platform for introspection, connection, and shared bereavement. Garrison's story moved us so deeply because it was human, unadorned, and painfully true. When the lights go out, the echoes of that final night won't leave. The tiny pop that was ignored. The empty rooms that were filled with memories. The loved ones' tears, friends, and fans. The burning candles as symbols of hope, memory, and vigilance. All of these works are joined in a poignant but powerful reminder: life is fragile, struggles are often invisible, and even the subtlest signals can be highly meaningful. If you or somebody you know is struggling with mental health issues, help yourselves. In the United States, dialing 988 will summon the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Everywhere else, local resources are available to provide aid, help, and intervene. Each life is valuable, and learning can rescue someone before the clock is too late. Garrison Brown is gone, but his story is still shaking us. It is a reminder of listening more carefully, responding more compassionately, and valuing life in every fleeting, fragile moment. And perhaps, as we remember him, we can learn to hear the creaks we so easily ignore, to notice the whispers of pain, and to protect those we love before it is too late. The night is quiet now. The candles have burned low to the point where they are little more than a faint glow, throwing only shadows and recollections. But the lesson remains: small sounds, quiet moments, and hidden cues, these may carry the greatest weight. And in that awareness, Garrison Brown's memory goes on, not merely in grief, but in vigilance, in compassion, and in hope. This family's drama is far from over, so smash like if you're #TeamWives, subscribe for the next explosive update. And drop a comment below: Who do you think will win? Stay shady, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next scandal. Kiss Mark. Behind TLC Sister Wives out.